Descending into the depths of the ocean in a 2026 Virginia-class nuclear submarine sounds like the ultimate voyage of discovery, but the reality is far more brutal than science fiction. You might expect to peer through a reinforced porthole at giant squids or a haunting, black void. Instead, long before you reach the true depths, the immense weight of the ocean would cause the very walls of your multi-billion-dollar vessel to groan, buckle, and eventually collapse inward, crushing everything inside instantly. To reach the deepest point on Earth, you must travel to the Mariana Trench, a massive tectonic scar in the Western Pacific so deep and inhospitable that even the world's most advanced nuclear submarines would be pulverized miles before reaching the bottom. In a realm defined by such crushing force and freezing temperatures, logic suggests it should be an empty, dead wasteland. Yet, for those who understand the horrors of the deep, the truth is far more complex and fascinating. To grasp how anything survives at the bottom of the world, we first have to redefine what the bottom actually is. When most people think of the ocean, they imagine sunny beaches, coral reefs, or the vast open water. However, the average depth of the open ocean is thousands of meters, eventually hitting the abyssal plain. For 99% of our planet, this is the absolute end of the line. Sitting between 4,000 and 6,000 meters below sea level, the abyssal plain is a staggering, flat expanse of mud and eternal darkness. The pressure here is already so extreme that most famous deep-sea monsters could not survive it. While pop culture places the giant squid at the bottom of the sea, these massive cephalopods actually max out at around 3,000 meters. If a giant squid attempted to swim down to the regular abyssal plain, the hydrostatic pressure would crush its biological systems instantly. For almost the entire Earth, the abyss is the final biological stop, but the Mariana Trench is different. The trench is not a simple floor. It is a chasm created by subduction, where the massive Pacific Plate is being physically dragged beneath the Mariana Plate. This creates a plunge that reaches 10,984 meters below the surface, a depth so profound our brains struggle to visualize it. If you took an elevator to the bottom, it would be a 3,580 floor descent. For a more horizontal comparison, it is exactly 99.7 American football fields deep. Down here, the temperature hovers perpetually just above freezing. While faint glimmers of sunlight can reach the twilight depths, the bottom of the trench is a total sensory void. There is no up or down, and no way to know what might be lurking centimeters away from you. To exist in the trench, an animal must be built for one specific purpose: surviving the impossible. On land, a lion brought to Antarctica would freeze. A bear in the middle of the ocean would drown. Every creature is a product of its environment, but the Mariana Trench demands a level of specialization that defies standard biology. The pressure at the bottom is roughly 1,100 times greater than the atmospheric pressure we feel on land. To visualize this, imagine taking a full-grown adult African elephant and balancing its entire weight on your thumb. Now, imagine that same weight pressing down on every single square inch of your body simultaneously. Under this force, standard biological systems fail. Most fish rely on a swim bladder, a gas-filled internal balloon, to control buoyancy. At these depths, that gas would compress so violently the fish would implode. Even rigid bones are a liability. While human bones are strong, they are porous, containing microscopic pockets of space. Under 16,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, these pockets become structural weak points that collapse. In the trench, empty space inside a body is a death sentence. This is why the apex predator of the Mariana Trench is not a jagged, armored monster, but the snailfish. Recorded as the deepest living fish in history, the snailfish is small, pale, and slightly pink. It has no scales and almost no internal bone structure. Its skull is literally left partially open so its brain isn't crushed by the pressure within its own head. Its flesh is translucent and gelatinous, feeling more like a wet napkin than a predator. Yet, this is peak biological performance. The snailfish realized that you cannot fight the ocean's pressure with armor or dense bone. The ocean will simply crack or snap them. Instead, the snailfish became the water. Its body is composed of water-based gelatinous tissue. Since water itself cannot be compressed, a body made of watery jelly is functionally immune to hydrostatic pressure. It survives 8,000 meters deep because it bends instead of breaking, allowing the weight of the ocean to pass right through it. They have no swim bladders, no scales, and barely any teeth. They drift through the freezing blackness, successfully outliving the monsters of the upper zones simply by existing in a state of gelatinous harmony with the void. But even a fish made of jelly needs fuel. In a place with zero sunlight, photosynthesis is impossible. There are no seaweed forests, no kelp, and no algae. Life here relies on the most depressing food source imaginable: marine snow. This is a continuous, never-ending shower of organic debris falling from the upper layers of the ocean. It consists of dead plankton, rotting fish carcasses, microscopic flakes of skin, and literal animal feces. This decaying sludge sinks for weeks before settling on the trench floor. While the snailfish doesn't eat the snow directly, it eats the creatures that do, the Hadal Amphipods. Looking like severely deformed shrimp, these amphipods swarm the trench floor by the thousands. When a piece of organic material finally hits the mud, they descend like locusts, stripping it to nothing. Some of these amphipods reach sizes of nearly 5 centimeters, a hint of deep-sea gigantism in a world where true giants died out miles above. The Mariana Trench represents a unique stage of isolation. In the midnight zone, a few thousand meters above, life is characterized by bioluminescence. Anglerfish with glowing lures, squids flashing red and white, and glowing jellies. But in the trench, the light stops. Producing light and maintaining complex eyes to see it costs too many calories in an environment where food is restricted to literal scraps. This leads to trench isolation. These creatures are trapped by their own adaptations. If a snailfish or an amphipod tried to swim up to the normal deep ocean, they would decompress and turn into useless blobs. Once a species adapts to the Hadal zone, it is a prisoner of the deep forever. Shockingly, even this unreachable world bears human footprints. When scientists sent robotic landers to the Challenger Deep to collect amphipods, they discovered microplastics inside their stomachs. Plastic fibers from synthetic clothing and fragments of bottles have made the weeks-long journey to the deepest crevices of the planet. Because the trench acts as a giant funnel, our industrial waste gets trapped there indefinitely. Blind and desperate for energy, the amphipods consume whatever falls into their path, meaning our pollution has fundamentally altered the diet of creatures living miles beneath the sun. Humans have visited this realm, but only rarely. Sending a machine is a challenge. Sending a person is borderline suicidal. Long before modern titanium submersibles, Jacques Picard and Don Walsh made the first descent in 1960 using the Trieste. The Trieste was essentially a gasoline-filled blimp attached to a thick steel sphere. It was a crude, heavy metal ball with barely enough room for 2 men to sit shoulder to shoulder. The descent took 5 agonizing hours of listening to the ocean compress the metal hull. At 10,900 meters, a violent crack echoed through the cabin. An outer plexiglass window had fractured under the stress. Had it failed completely, the water would have vaporized them instantly. They stayed at the bottom for only 20 minutes before beginning a slow, cautious ascent. Modern high-definition cameras have since revealed that the seafloor isn't just mud. It is covered in bizarre structures called xenophyophores. These are single-celled organisms that, in the unique physics of the deep, have grown to the size of grapefruits. They are mindless blobs of protoplasm that act as deep-sea architects, extracting minerals from the mud and gluing sediment together with biological excretions to build complex branching structures. They are also highly toxic, concentrating heavy metals like lead, uranium, and mercury. These toxic cells form the coral reefs of the deep, providing the only shelter for tiny worms and amphipods. The trench remains terrifying because it is geologically active. Unlike the Grand Canyon, which is dead rock carved by water, the Mariana Trench is a site of immense tectonic friction. It is constantly moving, generating earthquakes and reshaping itself as the crust is shoved down into the Earth's mantle to be melted. It is even getting deeper by a few centimeters every year, though shifting sediment often balances this out. Perhaps the most haunting discovery came in 2015, when scientists dropped a titanium-encased hydrophone into the abyss to see if the bottom of the world was silent. It wasn't. The trench acts as a gigantic acoustic echo chamber, amplifying noises from the entire ocean. The recordings captured the eerie screeching of tectonic plates grinding together, the deep, haunting moans of baleen whales from miles above, and the low-frequency rumble of Category 4 typhoons raging on the surface. Sound vibrations travel so well in dense water that a person at the bottom is still connected to the weather 7 miles above. Finally, tucked away in the trench walls are mud volcanoes, geothermal vents spewing boiling, toxic chemical fluids. Here, bacterial mats and microbes thrive through chemosynthesis, metabolizing toxic gases like methane and hydrogen sulfide into energy. These microbes are the reason NASA is interested in the trench. It serves as an extraterrestrial ocean simulator for moons like Jupiter's Europa or Saturn's Enceladus, where liquid oceans exist under miles of ice. While people want to believe in giant sea monsters like the Megalodon hiding in the dark, the laws of physics suggest otherwise. The trench isn't a hiding place for monsters. It is a laboratory that tests the absolute limits of biology. With 99% of the trench still unexplored, there is room for mystery, but any inhabitant is likely to be more like a mindless snailfish than a calculating leviathan. The Mariana Trench remains a reminder that we are all deeply connected, from the typhoons in the sky to the plastic in the stomach of an amphipod 7 miles down.